Holy flying plates of Arceus, my last video has done incredibly well. I really cannot believe how popular it became compared to all of my other videos. Like, literally, I cannot explain how happy I am that people would even watch something I made. After over 9 years I created this channel. Let me just take this opening minute to say thank you. Like, just thank you. I feel if for even this brief moment, even if it only lasts like this long, I guess, that I feel like I'm finally getting somewhere on YouTube. Now, in any case, with that said, since you all really like when I cover these topics based on my polls, I decided I'd do it again and keep going. You all wanted me to talk about abilities that are bad, weak, based on what I'm seeing in the comments section, and see if I can fix them. So, let's take a crack at it. Intro, please.
Is there more to us than the words we say, the games we play? Can we know that we're not dreaming?
So, as the poll I posted stated, this time I'm going to be talking about bad abilities, weak abilities, meh abilities, and seeing what I can do to fix them. And oh boy, are there a lot of bad abilities. I think I might need to make a second video or even a third video just to cover them all. Now, let me just state that, after all my years of experience, a Pokemon with a bad ability isn't necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes an ability just isn't meant to be viable or even used in a competitive format, whether it's casual or serious. And, there is nothing wrong with that. Does Yamper's ball throw ability need to be made better? No. It isn't really a competitive Pokemon, and it serves a very niche, if somewhat adorable, role in the main overworld. Pickup is also an ability I wouldn't bring into a VGC battle, but if you're going to be grinding out EXP by KOing wild Pokemon, or if you're just claiming out shiny Pokemon or whatever, you're trying to change shinies, having that chance to obtain free items, especially high quality items, is also pretty nice to have. But, with that said, there are plenty of abilities that are just meh, or even just bleh, that could really, really use some fixing to make them even slightly better or worthwhile. I'll start off with by far my personal favorite, one I talked about before called Anticipation. And you know what, while we're at it, let's just lump in Forewarn as well. Now, for those who aren't aware, these two abilities function identically to one another, in that what they do is alert the trainer that the opposing Pokemon has a very powerful move. In Forewarn's case, it tells you if the opponent is running a strong physical or special attacking move while calling out its name. And in Anticipation's case, it tells you that your opponent has a super effective move against your Pokemon with Anticipation. Now, there's an old saying, information is ammunition, right? No, not in this case. Like, wow, I can't believe my opponent with the shiny Zacian in crown form has the move Behemoth Blade as one of its 4 moves, and that it's super effective against me. Like, see what I mean? Generally, you can guess what moves a Pokemon will have, just going off of the Pokemon itself. We all know that a Superior will often have Leaf Storm, Incineroars will have Fake Out or Flare Blitz, Reshiram will have Fusion Flare. It's honestly useless information to anyone with moderate knowledge of Pokemon move pools. Now, when we're talking about Anticipation, well, if the opponent has a super effective or a one-hit KO move, the Pokemon with Anticipation will shudder. Again, not really useful information, because if you aren't top and are surprised that we might know our type matchups, we know which Pokemon have what type of moves and if they're super effective or not against us. And as for one-hit KO moves, well, you can only surprise someone with that kind of move one time. After that, the jig's up. So, unless you like watching your Pokemon shudder in fear over its imminent demise every time it enters the battle, these abilities are a rather waste of time and a ability slot. So, what can we do? Well, my idea is the same as I once said long ago. Give the Pokemon with anticipation a 100% chance to dodge the first super effective move that tries to hit it after it shudders. Now, for this effect to work, it needs to shudder first. Once it shudders, if the opponent does use a super effective move or a one-hit KO move on the shuddering Pokemon, then said shuddering Pokemon will be guaranteed to dodge it. To balance it, this only works if the opposing Pokemon don't leave the field for whatever reason and swaps into a different Pokemon. As for Forewarn, I believe we can give a similar change. Make it so that it scouts one move the opponent knows, and if it's in a double battle, one of each opposing Pokemon's moves. And if the opponent uses these moves, the Forewarned Pokemon and its partner Pokemon can avoid them, at least for the opening turn. After that, the effect gets lost. Honestly, I still like my idea for anticipation, but then again, I anticipate a lot of things going wrong for me every time I battle. Another ability I put on the poll was Pressure, and honestly, this is one of those stock abilities that Legends get that are annoying to deal with, but you ignore them quickly, and honestly, they aren't that threatening or even worth considering. But, just so we all know what it does, Pressure has the following effect. If the Pokemon has Pressure, the opponent's Pokemon will have their PP usage increase each time using a move. So, basically, if there's one Pressure Pokemon on your side, your opponent will use 2 PP per move. And if it's 2, then they'll use 3. Now, for very powerful moves that have very few points, this could hurt their long-term plans in a battle, if you ignore the fact that outside of singles, this isn't really a big deal, as at bare minimum, with proper training, the only thing this does is turn 8-point moves into 4-point moves. And if you're using Pressure to stall your opponent into struggling, by that point you've either already run, or they probably will forfeit before that situation happens. Furthermore, as with the previous video, most teams have ways to counter this kind of a strategy, and they often have ways to get over Pressure Pokemon, willingly taking the big hit to their move pool just to blow it up. No, I'm serious here. I can seriously count on my left hand the number of battles where I felt slightly threatened by a Pressure Pokemon. And now that I said that, someone is going to challenge me to a singles battle and set up this kind of situation just to spite me. Now, another thing, this does have an effect outside a battle, where if the leading Pokemon has Pressure, wild Pokemon with higher levels will appear when having a wild encounter. So, let's say you're in the wild area, for example, and wild area Pokemon have a range of level 34 to 41. Most Pokemon will be around level 40 if you're using Pressure as your first Pokemon's ability. So yeah, no real purpose in battle except for PP stalling in really stally singles format. Heck, when Ability Patch became a thing, everyone turned their Pressure Legends into their preferred hidden ability. So, seriously, you really think people wanted Pressure Suicune or Pressure Dialga? Now, the question stands as, how can we improve Pressure? Turning it into something that we actually want to run instead of, just skipping it over for the hidden ability. Well, the answer is simple. By changing how it works. First, let's think of what Pressure is. It's typically given to really intimidating, really large, really powerful Pokemon. Most oftentimes Legends. So, this gave me an idea. When you're under pressure, you're feeling forced to act instead of react. You're thinking you have to do something now. You can't just sit back. You have to do something. You have to go on the attack. So, my idea is this. Pokemon with pressure will retain the increase in PP usage, but they will also have an effect on the field against the opposing Pokemon that slowly degrades over time. My idea is this: instead of just leaving it as is right now, give it a pseudo-permanent taunt effect that degrades over time the longer the pressure Pokemon is on the field. Essentially, Pokemon are pressured into attacking and not going for things like, say, barriers or Trick Room or even Protect. And this effect degrades over time, like before, where turn 1, the opponent is forced to attack. Turn 2, they have a 50-50 shot of being forced to attack, and so on, decreasing in strength by half each turn. Now, to compensate, this effect cannot be reset by having multiple pressure Pokemon swap in and out, so there's always a pressure Pokemon on the field. There has to be a turn with no pressure active on the field in order to reset it for your side. So, you can't have, say, turn 1 Dialga comes in, stops shenanigans, turn 2 Entei comes in on a swap, while Dialga swaps out into something else, and then suddenly the opponent is back to square one 100% under pressure's effect. And, as an added bonus, Pokemon with pressure are immune to being pressured themselves. Honestly, this effect would make me reconsider just instantly getting rid of it in favor of a Legend's hidden ability. These are some very nice effects. This is actually a very nice effect in my opinion. And we can slot this in really easily, and suddenly pressure becomes much better. Heck, I'm even feeling pressure to use this ability, and again, it's not even in the game. Now, my next ability I'll cover is known as Water Veil, and can I just say this is honestly one of the best abilities I can see on any Pokemon, at least from a physical attacker's side. For those who are unaware, Water Veil protects the user from being burned, and it will also cure a burn if the Pokemon is burned while they have Water Veil as an ability. Now, on paper, this isn't too bad. If it weren't for the fact that of the 6 species with access to this ability, 4 are better off being special attackers with either stronger special attacking moves or an ability that makes that strategy better. And as for the remaining 2, Float Cell and Huntail, they have superior abilities to Water Veil, such that even if you're using them for physical attacks, Water Veil is such a niche tool, it is only viable in specific situations. The reason for this is because, well, if you're trying to burn a water type with anything besides Will-O-Wisp, you're in deeper trouble than you realize, as the only reliable way of causing a burn is with Will-O-the-Wisp or fire-type moves. And most water-type Pokemon prefer to use special attacks first and foremost over physical attacks, just due to the sheer number of Intimidate Pokemon out there. And finally, we all know water beats fire. Now, with all of these factors, Water Veil's niche role to protect against burns, well, when you put them all together, it's rather pointless. Now, there's no reason to use Water Veil over the other abilities these Pokemon gain access to, as they're straight up upgrades by comparison, or they don't care if they get burned or not. So, what can I do? Is there any way my hat and I can fix or improve this ability to make it even slightly more viable as an option? Well, if I didn't, if I didn't have a way, you wouldn't be watching me this far into the video now, would you? My idea is this: if a water Pokemon knows Water Veil, then the Pokemon not only protects against burns for itself, but it also protects the partner Pokemon from being burned as well. Now, this is already a decent upgrade, but I think we can improve it slightly further, make it more tempting to have, by providing Pokemon with this ability and its partner on the field with a 20% reduction in damage to fire-type moves. Now, This will offer certain Pokemon better protection against fire-based teams. Look, we all know the ice types and the grass types suffer against fire type Pokemon, and I think steel type would also like this kind of a little bit of a buff as well. And it gives us a reason to run a Water Veil Pokemon on the team. You know, I think this is a pretty good idea in my opinion, but then again, I am a Reshiram who really likes fedoras. Alright, now to finish us off, the next ability I'm going to cover is a pretty surprising one that was recommended to me by local Maple, Friend Guard. Now, just so we know what it does, Friend Guard protects the allied Pokemon by reducing the damage they take by 25% from the opponent's Pokemon and allied Pokemon. And that's it. Honestly, I don't know what I can do to improve this ability. It is a good ability. But the only problem that I can see with it is just the list of viable Pokemon for it. Of the Pokemon with this ability, only Clefairy can make good use of it with its Follow Me and Eviolite stats. And none of the others, besides maybe Pavilion, can work with it because it has a similar move pool. And the problem is that if Clefairy has to do a Follow Me, unless the opponent uses abilities that counter redirect strategies, or they use spread moves, this is counterintuitive to the idea of using Friend Guard to reduce incoming damage. So, the ability is good, though the execution is flawed. Let's just leave it at that. What I would say to improving it is Friend Guard effect is granted to the ability user as well. And, as a bonus, if the Friend Guard Pokemon faint while the friend is on the field still, they get a buff as a parting gift, increasing their defensive stats by 1 stage, and restoring them to either full HP if they took any damage, or removing any status conditions they may be under, such as, preventing them from falling asleep via yawn, curing paralysis, or sleep, or burn, whichever is more needed. Honestly, that sounds like something a friend would do. If a friend is willing to take the hit for the teammate, then they should be rewarded after they are knocked out, etc., with a parting gift. At least it's better than a parting shot. And that about wraps up what I can cover in one video without it going over 20 minutes long. And honestly, I don't know how long this video will be after rendering and editing. I probably will do a part 2 or even a part 3 if enough abilities are out there for me to cover. Leave your ability suggestions down below if you have any that you want me to put my thinking hat to fixing or improving. Again, to those of you who recently watched or discovered my existence, I cannot thank you enough for noticing me. Please, help me grow my channel, as I honestly do my videos for you guys. I love doing them for you all. Now, leave your comments, share my video, and the likes. With that, I now leave you off with a Samurott staring into the sky as the rain pours around it while music sends you off. Bye-bye!
When you've reached the point where you can't go on, just come to me, you'll be safe from harm. If you trust in me, then I'll trust in you. There's nothing more that I need to do. If you put your hands in front of mine, we'll be shining through one at a time.